And every book I write, there's one read I do at some point in the editing process or writing process where I slam my laptop shut and I cast it aside and I sit there and I say, well, that's the biggest pile of shit I've ever written. And then the next day I'll open it up and I'll be like, this is the best fucking thing I've ever written. It's like, whatever's happening in your personal life as well, or just life in general, or just the dickhead in the supermarket that rammed his trolley in your ankles and upset you that day, it all impacts your mindset and how you approach your writing and your creativity.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Carrington-Russell, an Amazon Top 25 best-selling author dedicated to interviewing fellow authors and experts within the publishing industry in hopes to give you inspiration, resources, and advice on how to level up in your writing career. And I have a very special guest for you today. We are talking to a New York Times and Sunday Times romance best-selling author who has over 15 years experience. We are talking to the one and only Jodi Ellen Malpas. How are you today?
Good, I have 15 years experience. I don't
Yeah.
know whether I have good advice with that experience.
Well, this is the place to find out.
I feel like I've winged it for 15 years, to be honest.
But so many people say that, but then as soon as you start talking just about this industry in general, you're like, oh, I actually do know a thing or two here. So
Let's find out.
let's find out. Well, then take me back to the start. Your debut novel came out in 2012. So take me back to why you started writing and how you found publishing for the first time.
I feel like I've told this story so many times. I'll never get bored of it because there's always new ears to hear it. I started writing as an escape, which is, I think, many women read for escape. And I just had this story build in my head over time. I was always away with the fairies. People used to say to me they never knew, if I was actually present. And I was always out off creating worlds. And it was a strange thing for me. And when I got to sort of my late 20s, I just started writing things down and, it was all, I'm just a girl from a small town in England that, I didn't even dare to dream that I could do something like I do today. So I just started writing things down and it was my escape and it's what I did late at night when my boys were in bed. And then it just, it built into this story. I didn't even know about the online community at that point. I didn't even know it existed. I didn't have any Facebook or social media. I gave it to a friend to read, and she read it and gave me a bit of a kick up the arse to do something with it. So I put it on Amazon, which was the only platform available to me at that time. And if I'm honest, I don't know what happened. It just exploded. And I feel it's an amazing thing, but it's a rare thing, I didn't do any marketing. I didn't even edit the book. I mean, I read it 50 times myself and was convinced there wasn't one typo, but of course there was. I did everything wrong. So I fluked it, basically. It was the right book at the right time, the right readers looking for that type of book. Clearly off the back of 50 Shades, everyone was ravenous. And yeah, that's how I ended up in this world. I remember going on my Amazon account and seeing that I'd sold 60 copies and thinking, oh my God, someone's read this book. And the funny thing was that this is how clueless I was. I didn't realize that there was a tab that you could click on my platform that gave you the countries and how many books were sold in each country. Well, I was looking at the UK. And then I discovered after a while there was a US tab, and I clicked the US tab and I'd sold thousands of books in the US that I
Wow.
didn't even know about. I mean, I'm just giving you a general idea of the level of how clueless I was. So yeah, I was just kind of thrown into this romance world, discovered this online world. I was being tagged in these things. I only had a personal Facebook page, so I had to set up a separate Facebook page. Um, and it went from there.
Do you know what though? I love that there is a naivety almost to anyone who was sort of self-publishing within, I want to say, that 2010 to 2015 time period, because self-publishing was very new. There was still a lot of stigmatization that it wasn't of same quality as traditional publishers. There was a lot of questions around it. Nobody really knew how it worked. There wasn't resources like there was today. But that's great. Like, I love that story so much because it really does show like the naivety stepping into it. And so, what did you then do afterwards? Because you're like, all right, thousands of people have read my books. That seems suddenly like a lot of pressure. How did you
Yeah.
then realize you had to increase your quality or you had to write another book? What were the next steps for you?
Well, I'd already finished the second and most of the third book at that point. I'd just written for so long that I had all of these words. And when I decided to put this man on Amazon, I kind of had to go through and find an end point for the first book. So I did that. And then I was kind of editing beneath this man, which I had committed to release in the January following the October that this man was released. Um, and then agents and publishers came knocking. So I remember thinking to myself, I can't withdraw that January date because the end of this man was a bit of a killer cliffhanger. and, and I think I would have been hung, drawn, and quartered if I'd have postponed that. So the people that are still discovering this man, of course, have got all the books there straight away to binge. But I did feel very sorry for those very early readers who had to wait. But I still didn't have an editor at that point. And Beneath This Man went out there, edited by me again. Um, and then they were all re-released by the publisher. And I remember the publisher sending me my first traditional publishing editing experience. Well, my first editing experience at all, really. I remember them sending me the book with all these comments and redlining and stuff. And I remember just sitting at my desk crying, thinking, well, why the hell have they bought this series? Because they clearly fucking hate it. Doing all of this, deleting and changing and the realization of how poorly edited the original was. I mean, I know some people have still got that first edition on their Kindle because it's got everything in there. But yeah, suddenly it wasn't just about writing for me. It was about a lot of other people as well. And there are obviously massive pros to being traditionally published. Um, and there's massive pros to being independently published. So these days I kind of straddle both,
Yeah.
which is a nice balance.
I'd love if we can actually delve into that a little bit deeper, if you're okay with that. For those who are watching, say if they are only recent on the scene or they're looking at their options, in a nutshell, how would you compare independently publishing, the perks to that, and traditionally publishing?
There are pros and cons for both. First of all, traditionally published is a huge honor because, I remember being told by my agent years ago, this, is not accurate stats, but for every 1,000 manuscripts that land on an editor's desk, they take one.
Yeah.
You know, they get so many submissions daily, and you have to capture them within moments,
Yeah.
you know. So whenever any of my publishers, if they still want to work with me, it's still such a massive honor, it's it's incredible. Independently published, you kind of you have to accept if you're going to go traditionally published, you have to be open-minded. You have to take feedback. If you're not open to taking feedback, you are not open to improving your craft. Um, you also have a big ego, but you have to be open and remember that publishers are professionals. They know what the market wants. Even, small things that you may never consider when they want a book to be a certain amount of words. And there's a very good reason for that. Being published, getting the deal is just the first step. The publisher then has to sell it into the stores. And stores are getting thousands and thousands and thousands of salespeople every week trying to sell their books and get shelf space. So just because you get a publishing deal, it does not guarantee your book's going to be a massive success. It's, obviously publishers do everything they can. Their marketing strategies are great. They know what they're doing, but shelf space is precious and you don't always get it.
That's correct. I love also that you mentioned being open. And I think it's one thing that we really have to remind ourselves quite often, actually, because being adaptable in this industry is the only way that you will have a long-term career. And we have similar timelines. So I know how many trends I've seen, how many different all the things that have happened over the last decade. And I'm kind of curious if there's anything that really surprised you within the industry over that time that you, or maybe even moments that you had to be reminded yourself that, oh man, I have to learn again. I'm out of my depth, or I'm not sure about this new stuff that's happening.
Yeah, I think for me, just being here for a start, still writing, still having readers that want to read what I write, that's the main thing. I've seen so many authors come and go over the years, and I think you have to adapt, but also not lose your identity. I've never kind of been a fan of jumping onto trends. You usually find anyway, if you jump onto a trend, you finish the book, the trend's gone. There's something else happening now, it's you just got to write what you want to write, and that's what I've always stuck to. I've written what my heart's told me to write, and it's done me well so far. But you can't take for granted that you're still going to be here in another 10 years. You can't also obsess about that. And, you know, I've I've met so many authors in my time, and hearing them stress out about the trends, about TikTok, about not being traditionally published, about their sales not being particularly good, on a release. Just keep going. You can't let that affect you, because you're not going to be creative if you're focusing on the negatives. It's the same with reviews. I've always said, don't go and look for your reviews, avoid your reviews, just let your reviews come to you, because 9 times out of 10, those reviews are going to be the great reviews that you want to read, and they're the ones that are going to give you the fuel for your creativity. It's baffled me to no end for 15 years when I see authors talk about their negative reviews. Like, why are you looking for the negative?
Yeah.
Don't look for the negative. I mean, sometimes being fun about it, joking about it, that's great. I love that. There's been some really great cases online where someone's left a really shitty comment, or someone's left a shitty review where it's got a bit personal, and the author has called them out and kind of put them straight. They've not got upset about it, because you understand you're putting your work out there. It's up for criticism, and it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
That's just part of the game.
I absolutely love your outlook on this. I imagine there were moments, though, in your own career where you might have had self-doubt or obstacles, or you've had to learn to have this more positive outlook on not trying to control the results, because I think that really is the hardest lesson in this industry, is
Oh,
because
God,
we
yeah.
can't control it. I'd love to hear about some of the conversations you had to have with yourself to make sure that you stayed true to that outlook.
Oh, every day, every day. And every book I write, there's one read I do at some point in the editing process or writing process where I slam my laptop shut and I cast it aside and I sit there and I say, well, that's the biggest pile of shit I've ever written. And then the next day I'll open it up and I'll be like, this is the best fucking thing I've ever written. It's like, you know, whatever's happening in your personal life as well, or just life in general, or just the dickhead in the supermarket that rammed his trolley in your ankles and upset you that day, it all impacts your mindset and how you approach your writing and your creativity. So yeah, I have a word with myself most days, and I get a bit blue sometimes when I have those moments of doubt that actually I've lost my writing mojo and what I'm writing now is a pile of crap. But usually I find if I put down the tools and stop staring at the laptop, trying to dig for the words, hook my dog up and go for a walk, get some fresh air, clear my head, and I can come back to it and it's fine.
I'm curious in what your process is as to whether you're a plotter or a pantser, whether you're lighting candles and singing Kumbaya before you write.
No, I can only write when it's a half crest moon.
Oh,
No,
perfect.
no. I am nothing like that. I'm a pantser, I'm a plotter. I don't have any particular time of day. I like to write. I write whenever I want to write. I mean, there's some books that I plot from beginning to end, chapter by chapter. I'll get to chapter four and it's all going off on a tangent. Characters are doing shit they shouldn't be doing. Everything's gone to pot and I'm suddenly reconstructing all the chapters. And then I write books like I've just finished a book that literally fell out of me. And I'm a real sucker for journals. I like to keep a journal for every book that I write. I write everything in it, notes, character notes, plot lines, everything. This book, I started writing and I got to 70,000 words and I haven't written one note. And I thought, oh my God, I've got to stop. I need to go back and I need to read it again. I need to start making some notes. And it just fell out of me. And then there's other books that, I mean, I don't know about you, Kaya, but years ago, I remember a great writing day could be anything up to 10,000 words. And these days, if I get 3,000 words down, I'm happy. This book, I was pumping out 8 to 10,000 words a day again. And that just felt amazing because when you get 30 books deep, you haven't got all the sentence constructions at your disposal. You haven't got all the character traits at your disposal. That first book I wrote 15 years ago, I had everything free. And now every word I write, I'm like, fuck, have I used that? I'm sure a character said that before. Oh my God, someone's done that. Everything suddenly more thought. You have to think about every word you write.
Let's deep dive into this actually, because I can relate to this 100%. And one thing that I found, and I may be incorrect, this is just my observation, is that the first probably about 2 years in an author's career, smashing out books like you wouldn't believe, like writing
Oh
crazy.
yeah, five a
I
year.
love it. We're just like, here's all the books. I think in the first 2 years, I wrote like and published 10 books, like something wild. And then I feel like after that, the steam train slowly starts slowing
Mhm.
down, and we're like, oh, why can't I do what I used to do? And I think also that's when the reality sets in that this is also a business. There's other things I have to balance or figure out. Now I'm being a lot more conscious of market. I've been a lot more conscious of what I invest my time in. And then when you do get to this, as I said, I've been doing this now for since 2014, so we're kind of similar timelines. I do. I have the same issue in that I know that I could once upon a time do 10 to 15,000 word days and be like, look at me, I'm a stallion, look at me go. And now I'm just like 3,000 words is a really good day, and I need to be happy with that. I need to be okay with that. And I
Exactly. It took me a long time for that.
it took me a very long time to get there because
Yeah.
we beat
I'm
ourselves up.
failing.
Yes, we beat ourselves up because we're comparing ourselves to a version that we are not anymore. And I think you're correct in the sense that we're a lot more thoughtful and intentful in what we're putting because we've grown as well as writers. So, and exactly that, you're going, have I written a similar scene? What's this author's name? Or not authors, what's this
Kindle
character's
out,
name?
do a search on all of the
Yeah,
books.
exactly that. Like I have some readers tell me, oh, remember when this and this happened? I was like, who was that? What book was that? And I'm like, oh, I forgot that happened. That's crazy. I, so what advice would you have for anyone then who's wanting to dive into the world of romance and writing alpha men? What are the tips that you would offer them as to reader expectations in those books as well?
I think the first rule for me is always to be authentic.
Yeah.
I feel like I said years ago, and it's kind of stuck with me. You've got to write for yourself first.
Yeah.
Don't write what you think people want to read. You're forcing words. It's not natural. Therefore, you lose authenticity. Um, it's easy to go online and compare yourself, to see other authors and, be inspired, but don't insult authors by blatant copying. It's that's I've had my fair share of that, and it's an insult. I've had readers come authors, aspiring authors, come on my socials and advertise their book. If you love Jodi's work, then you'll love this. It's just you be humble and make your connections, but be authentic. It's don't drop into peers and industry professionals comments and
Yeah.
inboxes saying, I'm an aspiring author, and entitlement, I think, is the word I'm looking for. They don't expect everyone to promote you. It's if I promoted every author that I was asked to read their work, there'd be nothing on my socials that actually was relevant to me. It's a really hard balance to get. And of course, we all support each other in the industry. We're all mostly women. Obviously, that's the main demographic. There are plenty of male romance authors, and there's plenty of male romance readers. You have to support each other. But as an aspiring author, the worst way you can start off is bombing other authors' social media. That's just going to give them the instant ick.
Yeah.
Don't come on my socials and advertise your book.
Yeah.
This isn't free advertising space.
No, and the thing is too is like, and I'm definitely happy to discuss this as well because we work hard on what we build. We work hard on our platforms, and although you may come on and be like, well, they have 20,000 views, imagine what I can get out of that. I think at any point, just in general in life, as well as within this industry, if you're looking at somebody and immediately thinking, what can I gain from them? Then that is the wrong approach. If you organically make friendships and we really do love and support each other because this can be a very isolating career path. We're behind a laptop all day, and so when you make friends with fellow authors who genuinely understand the exact same struggles and have the tenacity to keep going, like we love that. So just make sure that those that you're connecting with, it's coming from a good place
Yeah,
because a lot of people can tell when it's not.
I've, had what I've thought of friendships
Yeah.
in the industry that have turned out just to not, and I tend to keep myself to myself. I have author friends,
Mhm.
lots of them. But I've been burned by people who I thought were genuine, and actually they were just out to get what they could. And you can't assume that everyone's intentions are the same as yours,
Yeah.
and it's such a cutthroat world, and it doesn't have to be. I mean romance world. That everyone's vying for social media space, and just be authentic and be genuine, and you know, the universe will be kind to you in return. That's just generally how I've operated.
Yeah. And this unfortunately is not an uncommon story either. Like I have had plenty of authors on here who same thing, thought that they had friendships throughout their career and some of them may have not been as sincere as they were hoping. So of course I guess it's like any industry though. So of course, if you do have these mishaps, but then there are so many fantastic people out there. So when you do find your tribe, it's such a magical experience as well. But
Oh
it is
yeah.
unfortunate that you experienced that. And I'm really sorry that you experienced that as well, because it's just shit.
Yeah. It is shit.
What I'm kind of
I have a shit list. I have a shit list, and then that's it. You know,
I can't
I
wait to talk about it after this interview. No, no, I'm kidding, guys. We're
I
kidding.
don't I don't need to go online and say rah and air my dirty laundry. But once you've upset me, or you've been unkind or whatever, you go on my shit list.
No, don't mess with Jodi.
I think someone said once that they were going to get a t-shirt. They got involved in some drama, or I don't know, and they sat there and they said to me, and I sat there and I thought, what would Jodi do? And then she said, well, Jodi would do nothing. I said, well, there's your answer. She was like, and I'm going to get a t-shirt saying, what would Jodi do?
Oh, I love that though. That's such a good shirt. I'm kind of curious then, what would you, if you had to go back to baby author Jodi, what would be the three top tips or three bits of advice you would offer her, knowing what you do now, because you've obviously learned so many lessons. What would you tell yourself?
Research, more research, endless research.
Just in like regarding what would you research?
Well, me at that time should have done more research into the romance industry that I didn't know existed. Maybe I would have found it in my research. Um, I think don't be put off by self-publishing. Again, we're talking 15 years ago. If I was me 15 years ago giving this advice, or are you talking about what would I give people advice now?
A bit of both, I guess. Like the three most, even like the three biggest lessons, I guess, that you learned, that you
So
were prepared for, I guess.
naturally, get the best editor you can afford.
Mhm.
And on that note, I would say as well, not everyone who claims to be an editor is
Yeah.
qualified to be an editor. So make sure you do your research and, maybe read some books that they've edited to see, the finished result. Cover design again, hire the best cover designer that you can afford. Look at their previous work. Um, See if it's, because cover designing that you've got to be on the same page with the designer. They've got to hear you. You've got to know what their style is. It can be a lengthy process. Um, Editing, cover design, social media. The dreaded social media, which is a whole nother job. Um, yeah, do it yourself.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing, or do as much as you can yourself. You've got a voice, and that translates onto social media, and readers like to know that they're interacting with you. It's more personal, and they know your words. If they're reading your words, they know your words. And it's what I find interesting in today's industry of authors is that we have faces now. And years ago, before social media, an author was a faceless name. There was no connecting with readers unless there was a signing event. Now we've got these amazing, huge events, some smaller than others, where readers get to meet the authors. So yeah, social media, you plan your social media, try and plan it, especially if you're releasing independently. A PR company is always great help in relieving the marketing strains. Um, and the early reviews are always great as well. You
Hmm.
know, the arcs.
What advice would you have? Because social media is such a tricky beast.
Mhm.
And there's so many different approaches, so many different options. But one thing that I think has worked for you, and just piggybacking off what you just said then, is your authenticity, who you are as a person and who you are as a brand and what you're offering on your platform. How would you suggest somebody go about, say, if they've just started on social media or they're really just trying to identify who they are, who they're showcasing? What were some of the things that you realized that your readers wanted to see from you? And you were like, oh, okay, I didn't think you'd want that, but here.
Yeah, it's funny. The things on social media that you think they're going to love this don't do as well as I can spend an hour on a post, finessing it, you know, making sure I've got the perfect graphic, the perfect caption, and it completely flunks. And then I'll post a picture completely off the cuff with a couple of words, and they love it. But the reality is, you can't take social media personally
Yeah.
because level of engagement is just it's an unknown phenomenon, you know. It's you just have to be consistent. You have to keep posting. Don't obsess about how many likes you've got, how many comments. Just keep posting, you know. There could be a post that gets 300 likes. There could be a post that gets 5,000 likes. There's no rhyme or reason as to why that's happened. This 300 likes post might be 100 times better than the 5,000 likes post. It just happened to have been posted at a particular time and a particular algorithm with a particular hashtag. You can't, you know, you would drive yourself absolutely crazy if you obsessed about things like that. So post what you need to post, get your message across, make sure your readers have the information you want them to have, and let that be that. Always answer them in the comments. You know, if someone puts a love heart, like it. If someone puts something a bit deeper, say thank you. You know, that is it's quite simple. Don't obsess about it.
I love
Don't compare yourself to other, you know, other people. Well, how come they got 1,000 likes and my post only got 500 likes? You know, stop it. Look in the mirror. That's your own only comparison.
I love that. I genuinely I love your outlook as well. I love the positivity, so thank you.
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious as to what your must-dos are for every release that you have coming out. Are there certain things that you put in place, like newsletter, PR companies, whatever it may be? What is your blueprint to a good release?
My blueprint, I think it's so PR, naturally. I have a PR company that I work with on every release. The reality is you can't do everything yourself. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm contradicting myself because I said you do your social media yourself. I do my social media myself. But what we can't do is we can't email every blog or reviewer in the land and ask if they want to read our book. We can't send our book to every blog and reviewer in the land. We can't give them all the information. It's just too much. So you do need help in that area, especially around release. So I hire a PR company who I have for the 3 months of, you know, release, a month either side, who will give me everything I need, basically. They'll give me a link for reviewers to sign up if they want to read the book. They'll give me a release day packet to make sure I'm happy with that will go out with all the links everyone needs on release day. They'll have a press kit that they'll send out with arcs. They will send out influencer box if I want them to, you know. They'll collect reviews for me and send me the nice ones to share. So you PR is a must around release day. A newsletter, newsletters, I can't stress enough how important they are. You could lose your social media tomorrow and there would be nothing you can do about it. Newsletter people are there. They're your contacts. They're always going to be there. So if you lose that social media, you've still got all of those people in your contacts list who have subscribed to have receive information from you about new releases or whatever. So make sure your newsletter is in place and be consistent with sending them. I try to send two a month. One will be a roundup of what's been happening that month. One might be a sale or, something I want my readers to know. This man was on sale this month for 99p, Newsletter, super important. Release date, get it out there to those people who have specifically signed up to get information for you. You can't guarantee on social media that everyone's going to see that post. I've had people come to me 2 months after a post has gone out and a release has gone out saying, "Oh, this is a new book." No, it's been out 2 months and she's only just seeing it. So you have to have newsletters for me are super, super, super important. And it's something that you should nurture and maintain.
Yeah, I definitely advocate for this because I actually have had my social medias terminated and it was
Oh,
so much fun.
oh, God.
So yes, definitely do that. I've also had my Amazon account terminated. So like I've just, but you know what?
What have you been doing?
It's too much apparently, too much. But so yes, definitely yes to newsletter. And are you happy to share what PR company it is that you use?
Yeah, absolutely. I use Valentine PR. They are a well-oiled machine. They do such a great job every time. They keep you informed. Like there's so much to remember around release time. There's so much to remember, you know, even down to graphics, teaser graphics, release day graphics, a new banner for your Facebook page, so people click on your Facebook page and they see new release coming. Yeah, and all the little things that your creative brain hates to think about because you want to think about the words that you want to write. So they take care of everything and they are worth every penny. So if you can afford a good PR company, they will make your life so much easier around release day.
Let's talk about then creating opportunities for ourselves. There are so many options of different ways to reach readers or different ways to have income streams, whether it be translations, audiobooks, looking at a traditional route, and so many more. What advice would you have for authors who are trying to look outside of just the ebook and the paperback, and maybe a little bit of caution around who they're. I can already hear you saying research. Before you even say it, I can hear you say research. But yeah, so continue research. I'll hand it over to you now.
I think the first question you need to ask yourself when you're sort of thinking along, creating opportunities for yourself, what is your goal?
Yeah.
Is it more readers? Is it more money? Is it more exposure? There's so many arms to this research. you know, if you're lucky, then you're going to get people come to you and offer you whatever it might be. Can we put your audiobooks on our platform, listening platform? An agent, a country wants to translate your book. You might get people say, "Can I translate your book for you?" Everything. You don't leave yourself open to a nasty surprise. Is the basically the moral of this story. And don't assume that everyone is looking out for you. So you'll have someone come along and say, we have great history with authors and we pay really well if you put your book on our platform or whatever. You find people that have used these people and you talk to them. That's the best way. You want references. It's like going for a job, you know. No one's going to hire you unless they know that you're going to do what you say you're going to do and that's it. And I think everything just it's easy to be excited and it's easy to feel honored and oh my God, this country wants my book or this platform wants my audiobook or and get swept up in the excitement. Do your diligence and make sure you're covering your your ass
Yeah.
because never put your name or signature on a dotted line until you've done that and maybe even had it looked at by a professional legal counsel.
I love this advice and it's so true because I've had so many author friends be burned um,
Mm.
in contracts or just not having clear communication or goals. And on top of that, as well as doing research, contacting, as you said, people who have gone through them. And if you don't necessarily have that space where you can contact somebody directly, I would even recommend joining a couple of Facebook groups. Like I know I use a couple as resources that I really like. They're a really good environment. And I'll message and be like, hey, has anyone had experience with this particular company or whatever it may be? And that's a good way to get feedback. What I would say as well is that these things take time. I think there's again a naivety until that you're like, cool, I've got this contract and suddenly translation's going to happen and I'm going to get that cool book in 3 months. There's often a delay for could be years sometimes.
Oh
So
my God, don't get me started on the foreign. Listen, I always say if you get a foreign deal, brilliant, but it's a bonus. Do not depend on that money because it's not that foreign markets are bad payers. They've got 2 years to publish that book,
yeah.
depending on the type of contract it is, it just I always look at that money as a bonus, you know. Don't build it into your finances. Don't do that. Don't do that. But yeah, it in the what published within 18 months, I think most of the foreign contracts will say. It is a very slow, to your point, it's a very slow process.
I'm going through it right now, so I'm just like, I feel this. What
I've sold books in different countries and then got a copy 2 years later, and I'm like, huh.
I do the same thing sometimes with people. And I'm like, there's another one that's getting translated into. I've just forgotten what language, and everyone's like, how have you forgotten? And I was like, because I'm pretty sure I signed the contract over a year ago. I've just really forgotten. Sorry. What what would you say has been your greatest challenge and your greatest accomplishment so far in your writing career?
I mean, naturally, I always go towards the number one New York Times bestseller. I mean,
Let's talk about that actually. Tell me about the day that you found out. What happened and how did you celebrate?
well, again, me being a little naive. So I remember the day so well, and that release was really stressful because at the time that it was This Man Confessed, at the time that that came out in July 2013, I hadn't, my agent hadn't yet sold the UK rights. So I was releasing it in the UK independently, and my US publisher was publishing it in the US. And I wanted to obviously make that simultaneous. So Amazon flagged my book. Amazon flagged it on the day of release and didn't release it. They wanted proof of copyright ownership. So I remember being on the phone to my lawyer, so stressed because I had everyone in the UK like, where is it? Where is it? And then the US, it was live and everyone was reading it over there. So it was the worst 3 days of my well, the worst 3 days of my life, but it felt like it at the time. So it was a bit delayed. So it was a very stressful release. But when oh God, I mean, back then, I think the New York Times was released on a Wednesday for the week before. Yeah, and oh God, I didn't even think, it didn't even enter my head a best-selling list. It just didn't. And my phone, my house phone rang. We had house phones back then. It rang at like, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night. And of course, when your phone rings at 11 o'clock at night, you get that horrible heart sinks, doesn't it? Because you think, oh God, something's happened, what's something. And I answered it a bit tentatively, and it was my publisher in New York. Obviously, it weren't 11:30 in New York. And I was just a bit dazed and confused. And she said to me, the publisher said to me, Jodi, if you were to hit the New York Times, where would you want to be? And I was like, oh, are we having this conversation? Oh, I don't know. I mean, anywhere on that list would be amazing. And she said, how about number one? And I weren't following. I wasn't following. It's like, yeah, I suppose that would be nice. And then I just heard all this cheering in the background. And my agent was on the phone as well. And they were like, you're a number one New York Times. I'm going to get emotional just saying it. You're a number one New York Times bestseller. I was like, what? I just didn't, I don't think I quite understood like what had happened. And I remember ringing my mum, who lived about 50 yards down the road, and saying, Mum, this has happened. And then she burst through my back door in her pajamas. I'm just a normal girl from a very small town in England. And all of a sudden, I was a number one New York Times bestseller. Thanks for making me cry.
Are you
So,
making me cry?
I think sometimes I just have to stop, in this mad world that we're in. And, I just feel like there's millions of books being published every day and hundreds of thousands in the romance world, authors, readers, and it's a rat race. And I'm still in it, and I'm still writing books. And on those days where I do kind of think, oh God, this is harder than it used to be, I have to stop and remind myself of what I have achieved, because it's really easy to get caught up in the now and forget about how you got to the now. And that's the whole fucking point. So
I
that,
I love this story. I love how special that they made it for you. I love your mum bursting through the back door. Like,
he was in a right state. I mean, I didn't obviously didn't sleep for the rest of the night, and it's just such a fond memory.
how did you celebrate?
I think I wrote another book.
Sounds like you. Sound checks out, checks out.
I thought to myself, oh, this is quite good fun. Let's do some more.
And I think you're right, though, too. Well, I know you're right that we do need to have times of reflection in this industry, especially when you do want it to be a long-term career, because we can so easily get swept up in the what is going wrong or what are my current challenges. And we're not, as you said, smelling basically the roses. Like we're not just being proud of ourselves for what we've accomplished, because what we're
So,
already doing, it's hard enough sitting down at a laptop on a daily basis to write a book, to create a world that essentially doesn't exist
yeah,
is phenomenal. Like we're doing good, guys. We're doing good.
yeah. And I get up every day and I get to do something I love, and for that, I'm immensely grateful. I find it really hard to not appreciate this world. And, you know, like I said, comparison is the biggest thief of joy. And you just look in the mirror. That's your competition, and just keep writing. Just keep writing.
I'm curious then as to what your greatest obstacle has been for you personally, then.
So I don't want to say that I've not had any obstacles, because I feel like that sounds a bit egotistical. Um, I mean, balancing my personal life with my online life, my author life is always tricky. I it's very the biggest, I suppose the biggest obstacle, and it's a consistent obstacle. It's a constant, it's always there. Shutting off is really hard. Stopping writing, taking my author hat off and putting my Jodi hat on, that's hard. I always feel like when the words are coming, I've just got to keep writing. I've just got to keep going because I'm terrified that if I stop, I'm not going to find my flow again. So, like I say, that's a constant, consistent issue. And I think that's probably the case with many, many writers, if not all.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's that for any creative, what if I don't have it? Like what if I lose it? What if I
Lost my mojo.
Yeah. I have had so much fun having you on today. I would love if you can leave a piece for those who are watching, whether it be advice or just a message that you would like to share to those who are really wanting to level up in their career.
Just keep going. I think just don't obsess about where you're going to be in a year or 5 years. Just think about where you are now. Think about the story you're writing now. Don't think about the story you might write next and if you will be able to write it. It's all about the now. Don't stress about social media. We have to do so many things as an author, not just write the book. But writing the book is the most important thing. So that's essentially the starting point, and then everything from there will come. Just keep writing, and keep believing in yourself, and don't get caught up in, the what ifs, because none of us know. None of us know. It's crystal ball gazing.
I think that is fantastic advice. So thank you. I would love to know, where do we find you? What do we need to be on the lookout for? And anything else that we need to know.
So the invitation has released, and I'm hoping everyone's enjoying that. The surrender is the 2nd of September, which is the follow-up to the invitation. How I did the dirty, I did that disgustingly horrible cliffhanger ending. But I know it's terrible, isn't it? It's like I've said to you in this interview, write what your heart tells you to write. The only time I question that is when I'm doing a disgusting cliffhanger. But I wanted there to draw in the emotions from readers, like when I get angry messages about a cliffhanger, I'm like, affected, affected. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to pull all those emotions out. So if you're pissed at the end of a book, I'm sorry if this sounds sadistic, but I'm quite happy about that. You know, I feel like the element of, delayed gratification has just been lost in the past 15 years, that wait with TV and Netflix and binge watching and binge reading, I just love the anticipation of waiting and anticipating the next book. So I hope they're anticipating and it's and then in November I have another release, Every Silent Lie. So I've not really shared much information about that yet. Obviously my time and social space at the moment is dedicated to the surrender and the invitation. So more to come on that very soon.
And the invitation and the surrender, they are both in the Arlington Hall series, is that correct?
Yeah, Arlington Hall is a hotel, a luxury hotel and spa in Oxfordshire in England. And I was inspired. I went to stay at this incredible hotel. It's actually in Yorkshire. And there's a story behind this place, the woman who owns it, and she her story inspired Arlington Hall series. She doesn't know it. I think I might have dedicated the second book to her. Um, and maybe someone will tell her, but yeah, it's just the most phenomenal place. And I stayed there with my husband for a few nights, and it was the best massage I'd ever had in any hotel anywhere. Not like the massage that Amelia gets in the invitation, to be clear. It was just a very good massage. But yeah, I was just so awed by the place. And then Jude Harrison was born in my mind, and I thought, oh God. Yeah, and away it went.
I love that so much. And social medias, where are you? Where do we find you?
I'm on the old Facebook, like all the other old people.
Hey, I'm still on that. Do you have a reader group?
Yes, I do. There's the official Jodi Ellen Malpas fan group, which is a private group on Facebook full of readers who like me. So they chat about me. And then obviously the Instagram, and the dreaded TikTok, which I'm probably too old for, but you got to just be there, haven't you?
We're embracing it. We're having the time of our life. I love it.
I just don't want any more social media platforms, please.
Yeah, I feel that. I'm like, no more, please. I
Yeah.
I have had so much fun having you on today. Thank you so much for taking the time to
Lovely.
come
Thank you
on.
so much.
And yeah, who knows, maybe we'll get you back on in a couple of years and see where you're at.
See if I'm still around.
I know you'll still be around.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. And I'll look forward to seeing you, hopefully in London.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Until the next episode, guys, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you.